Hey everybody, it's me, Douglas. So I am very thankful to Dr. Gutierrez, who is allowing me to present my paper via video. Um, I can't be there because I am back in New Hampshire. Um, I had to leave a little early, but I am very thankful that I get to still present you what I'm writing. And I wish that I could be there to see all of your presentations, but unfortunately I'm not. Um, so if any of you would like to send me some of your presentations just for fun, please do so. I would like to see them. Um, my student email is coleman, Coleman, letter D as in dog, at seattleu.edu. So let's see here. Um, so I'm going to read to you a bit of my paper. I'm not going to read you all of it, but I'm going to give you some of it. Um, and so I'm gonna read it to you, um, and I'm just gonna put it in maybe a little bit of a different order, and we'll see what exactly happens. I'm making some connections that are interesting, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start reading you my paper. Let me see here. Over the past 3 months, we have been learning about the lived experiences of Latinx people with a main focus on women's oppression. We gained first-hand knowledge of the struggle of Latinos through videos, readings, poetry, presentations interpreting the literature, and much more. Prior to taking this class, I had not understood much of the extent and severity that this group endures at the hand of the white, wealthy, patriarchal ruling class, but following completing this course, I feel I have begun to dip my toes into the pond of understanding all that there is to comprehend. Um, honestly, I didn't really know a whole lot about the Latino people's struggle, and I'm really thankful that I took this class because I'm a lot more aware of sort of arguments that are happening around me. And some of them are good, some of them are not so good, and it's really important to let people know when what they're saying is not okay. And so, in this essay, I will summarize and analyze the books we have read over the past quarter, and then go on to relate them to another minority group who shares the same oppressor. I will then go on to show how oppressed people's struggle for liberation is inextricably linked with each struggle, and conclude by discussing how these two oppressed groups organized collectively to combat their oppressors. Um, I'm not gonna get to all of that just because that would take a bit, but so I'm just gonna give you a piece. I'm gonna give you a taste. And if you want the rest of it, again, just email me. I mentioned it in the beginning of this video. Let me see here. In order to best discuss the history of oppression perpetrated against Latinx people, I will begin by discussing Gloria Anzaldua's The Homeland, Aztlan, the first chapter in this novel. Anzaldúa offers the reader in her book the opportunity to learn the shocking and terrifying history of the atrocities committed against the native Tejanos in Northern America by the Anglo invaders. Beginning in the 1800s, the imperialist colonial invaders swept through and began occupying what was then, and rightfully is, northern Mexico, while committing acts of terror against her people. Mexico justly chose to defend her people and fought back against the white tyranny and soon found herself embroiled in a war, eventually losing Santa Anna. In 1846, the illegal state of the United States of America waged war, a full-on war against the country, and Mexico was forced to capitulate much of her land and lost what is now much of the United States, including California, New Mexico, Arkansas, Colorado, and Texas. On the individual level, the imperialist aggressors performed routine acts of violence against the Tejanos and Chicanos, who bravely chose not to flee. Lynching of whole native families was not uncommon, as well as dragging an outspoken Mexican into a bush to shoot and kill them. Sadly, many native people had no choice but to protect their lives by running away from the violence and being committed excuse me, by running away from the violence being committed against them back at home. For those who did stay, they were forced into selling the land they and their families had spent cultivating most of their lives to white-owned corporations who in turn rehired them as farm workers and laborers. The pay and treatment they received was both menial and dehumanizing, much like the way their children would continue to be treated in the future. Anzaldúa and their first chapter gives a generous account of history that has affected their people that has been hidden and erased by many textbooks in academia. History is an invaluable asset in understanding how people have been attacked and have had what is rightfully theirs stolen from them, and this demonstrates the importance of always being critical of history and what kind of what kind of agenda the author has. In Anzaldua's case, their agenda is to set the record straight as to what violence was used against northern Mexico and her people, and how this violence continues to keep Mexican people repressed. I just want to take a moment to discuss how history is written by the winners, and it can, hmm, um, yeah, history. I'm just gonna say that history is really used to justify. History is written and altered differently to justify certain acts perpetrated by the aggressors. In this case, would be white colonialists. Let's see here. Let me scroll down. Um, and then I go on to discuss, while there are not any white people who took part in the atrocities used against Mexican people during the invasion today, because it's been, a few hundred years, this does not mean white people do not benefit from their spilled blood. White people are walking around, driving on, and living in homes that are on the land that was for many years Mexican soil. Because of this, white people have a responsibility with their privilege that must be utilized. Um, I'm just going to stop here for a moment, and I just want to discuss. I want to apply this to recent events there in Capitol Hill. So some of you probably heard that, I think it was yesterday, there was an anti-Nazi demonstration, and on some like weird website, it was like, I don't know, it was like, I think, I don't know, maybe Reddit or something, I don't know. Um, Anyways, it was some forum website, and some of my activist friends were sending me screen caps of it. And so, I mean, for those of you who might not know, we have, unfortunately, a little bit of a presence of Nazi fascists up here in the Pacific Northwest. And so they were discussing organizing on the internet, and I'm very happy to say that people really sprung into action, and we had over 500 people demonstrating against Nazis in Capitol Hill. Um, and I was just really, I was very proud to see a lot of my friends out there, some of them leading those demonstrations, and so that's so important. But I digress. Um, so it is necessary for white people to acknowledge this privilege, and in doing so, actively seek an anti-racist and anti-xenophobic identity that speaks out against these forms of oppression any and every time it shows its ugly head. Um, Sorry, Dr. G, you're gonna hate me. I know you hate him, but I'm using him in here. Um, Donald Trump, known for his narcissistic and outspokenness, putting it lightly, I know. Oh, where was I? God damn it. Oh, here we go. Donald Trump, known for his narcissistic and outspokenness, has over the past year been thrown into the spotlight for his outright racist and xenophobic banter, focusing primarily on Mexicans and Muslims. I'm using this example because, as you know, I'm in New Hampshire, um, and I actually only heard about this because one of my friends who lives here year round, like, they shared an article by like the local like newspaper, and it really frightened me because this was like I could literally drive to this town like maybe 10 minutes. And so, just over the summer in Rochester, New Hampshire, 10 minutes away from me. It's a rural town in a very rural state, and it was visited by Donald Trump, who uses townspeople for his racist, hate-fueled rhetoric. Um, During the presentation, one of his audience members and supporters asked for the microphone to speak and began shouting how the problems in our country were stemming from Muslims, and it prompted the crowd to applaud and cheer, and that is terrifying. Um, and so that just that was just really scary because it's like, holy crap. You usually think about things like that, and it's like, somewhere weird, middle of nowhere America. And then it's like, I mean, for me at least, like this is like right next door. So it was kind of like, holy crap. And it's true. Racism and xenophobia is everywhere, especially in Seattle. So don't think that we are immune or exempt. Um, Let me see here. Yeah, so the audience member blamed Muslims for the problems in our country right now. And I go on to write that this is a dangerous example of how when groups of people with comparable bigoted stances come together, it can quickly and easily transform itself into a mass of hate. What is more dangerous is what actions can emerge from this group, and several instances of the 20th century come to mind when thinking back to fascist right-wing rhetoric. The 1930s were when Hitler came to power in Germany at a difficult time to be a German citizen. Hitler recognized that his people were defeated and desperate to become great, and in this desperation comes horrific potential. Because Hitler promised many things to his people during an incredibly grim time, they excitedly jumped on board. Some tried to ignore his hateful rhetoric, while others found comfort in identifying a common scapegoat to take the blame. Around the same time, in the United States, an identical kind of rhetoric was transpiring, except instead of the Jews, it was targeting the Mexican people. Just as the beginnings of Hitler's rise to power started by expelling Jews to specific areas, sometimes outside of the country itself, the US was conducting the same measure. The Mexican Repatriation Act sought to abduct and ship off Mexican people living in the United States back to Mexico, regardless of how long they had been living there. Perhaps what demonstrated blatant racism in the US most was that people were grabbed indiscriminately as long as they quote unquote looked Mexican. Even if they were born in the United States, they were forced onto a train and sent to Mexico. This was detrimental for thousands of people stolen from their families and sent to a country many of whom were not familiar. People from further south in Latin America, such as countries like Colombia and Venezuela, who were living in the United States, were nabbed and transported back to Mexico simply because they were brown. What these two eras reveal is that when times are tough and people are desperate, they are willing to latch onto harmful rhetoric that aims to marginalize others, as long as they benefit in turn. The rhetoric Donald Trump espouses carries the same potential for violence that was committed in both Nazi Germany and the Great Depression afflicted United States. What is most important now, more than ever, is to use this history and knowledge given to us by Latinx writers, such as Gloria Anzaldúa, and wield it as a weapon to call out and defeat fascism while it is young, and crucify it before it grows into something unstoppable. Again. Um, Let me see here. So, let me get you guys back up there. Okay. So let me see here. Yeah, so that's that's the first few pages of my paper. Um, and I'm already at freaking 14 minutes. Jeez. Um, so let me see here. I don't know, I had a really good time connecting the issues of um, Nazi Germany and Hitler with Donald Trump. I thought that was a fun little treat to write. Also, I think it's important to remember that the issues that took place in the United States in the 1930s that caused the Great Depression were completely unavoidable, and it was, in fact, a flaw in the capitalist system. And people, whenever there's a really big issue, like a Great Depression, states will often seek people out to be blamed. Um, and so, let me see here. Yeah, now I'm at 15 minutes. Um, so I don't want to talk a whole lot longer, just because I know many of you like have presentations too. But I just want to let you know that I am going to um, I'm going to have my student email tab open, and I'm gonna have it open for the entire time that class is going on. So in case any of you have comments or even better questions, I'll hear the little ding and then I can like respond right away, live time. So I'd really like to hear some of your feedback and some of your questions too. Um, hmm. On that note, it's been a really great quarter, and thank you for this class, and thank you, Dr. G. And on my final note, please do course evaluations. They are so important and so helpful. Um, and just make sure to give Dr. G 5 stars because that's what they deserve. Okay, have a good holiday break.